Hi, welcome to today's segment of Healthy Living. Today we're going to be speaking about the Nurse Family Partnership Program. Stay with us. We'll be right back with our special guests. Welcome back to Healthy Living. Joining us today is Dr. Nancy Welch, Health Director of Western Tidewater.
I'm serving as Health Director.
Okay.
Right.
And then also Kelly Dodson. She's a nursing supervisor with the Nurse Family Partnership there at Western Tidewater. Ladies, thank you so much for joining us today.
Always a pleasure.
Having us.
And Dr. Welch, I wanted to go ahead and get started with our viewing public as far as just to tell them a little bit about the programs and services that are offered at the health department.
Sure. And of course there are many. And I always like to sort of start conversations by asking, well, how many of you have used the health department? And generally speaking, people won't raise their hand because they're thinking I'm talking about STD or something, which certainly we have those services. But then I ask, how many have ever eaten at a restaurant? And of course, everyone raises their hand, and every single person who has eaten at a restaurant has used health department services, because a lot of what we do, people aren't aware. But we investigate hundreds of communicable diseases a year so that we can prevent it from spreading. We have to be sure that the restaurants are serving in a safe way. We want good businesses, and one of the worst things a business can do is have a foodborne outbreak. So we work to prevent that by working with the restaurants. And of course, we also do wells and septic systems. These are sort of the silent things that many people don't realize we do, but they're a major part of the community, and we work very closely with the city in terms of how we do those. And then there are the things that people have more of a tendency to think about in terms of our clinics and family planning and sexually transmitted diseases. And then we have a very, very active and engaged, as Kelly here can attest, home visitation programs. We have Healthy Families and we have Nurse Family Partnerships. And in fact, we were the first Nurse Family Partnership in the state of Virginia.
Oh, how exciting.
So we were very excited about that. The last time I had the privilege of serving as Health Director, we did that. And a couple others have followed suit. So we will certainly get into that, and we work closely with Healthy Families within community as well. And a lot that we do also, we have Medical Reserve Corps, where we have volunteers who work with our communities whenever we do exercise drills, or if there's like a hurricane or where we need assistance, then we do that. So we work very closely with the emergency preparedness components, the fire departments mainly, in our different communities. So I can truly say I've been in public health for, I'm going to show my age here, for almost 43 years.
Yes, ma'am.
And I love it as much now as I did at the beginning. It's never boring. And I like to taunt my physicians who are in private practice by saying, our practice is larger than any of yours.
For certain.
Because in essence, every single citizen and visitor to the community is a patient of ours, to prevent health, to promote health, and prevent disease.
Now, you mentioned as far as the largest client base per se. When we talk about Western Tidewater, what areas does that actually include?
Yeah, it includes Suffolk, Isle of Wight, Franklin City, and Southampton County. And of course, we work with each of the governments in each of those localities, and how it presents itself. Like Suffolk is a different, sometimes different nuances than say you see in Franklin, because a lot of what we do is driven by community needs assessment. What are the unique needs for that community? And I'm sure that you see it in your program as well, because the needs in Franklin may be different than the needs in Isle of Wight, different from Suffolk. So in order to provide the best benefit to the community and accomplish our mission of healthiness, actually, we have to be driven by what are the needs assessment? What does it show us?
Now, as I mentioned, we could probably do a show that would go on for hours and hours when we talk about just the many wonderful, exciting things that you all have going on there. But what we really wanted to talk about today is, I think, a program that is little known throughout the community, but is so vital to our young mothers and to our youth, and that's your Nursing Family Partnership Program. Kelly, as I mentioned, of course, you're the nursing supervisor for that program, but can you share with our folks just a little bit about what that program includes?
Sure. What we are is we are a home visiting program that targets first-time pregnant mothers in Western Tidewater. So we enroll them prenatally. One of our model fidelity is that we do have to enroll the mother before she completes her 28th week of pregnancy. But we follow that mother through pregnancy and until their child is 2. So we are in the home and in their lives for a good 2.5 years.
Couldn't even imagine the relationships that you all must forge during that time frame
And
too.
that's exactly right, because the relationship is the most important thing. A lot of the mothers that we are serving, we're finding, just don't have the support. So, and what makes Nurse Family Partnership unique is that we are registered nurses. So that is one of the requirements as our program, is you do have to be a registered nurse. So when the mother realizes that she actually has her own personal nurse coming into her home for that length of time, it strengthens the relationship. You do build bonds. And it's been a proven model that the outcomes are higher.
So when we kind of take us through the standard day-to-day scenario of this type of thing, of course the young mother, of course you're already kind of like, oh my gosh, I could think even as an older mother and so forth, and being a first-time mom, it's kind of like, well, I think I know what I need to do, but as we all kind of laugh and say, our children don't come with instruction manuals.
They do not.
So what is, as far as when you meet with that first-time mom, what is typically her mindset, and then how do you set her mind at ease?
Well, a lot of times once we go in the home, because whether we get the referrals from the hospital, from the local doctor's offices, whether they come into the health department through our WICTA program, they are like, okay, so why are you here? You know, and then when we tell them that we're here to help educate them, the whole goal is to have a healthy pregnancy, a healthy baby, healthy delivery, and that the child meets his or her developmental milestones. So we're with them for 2 years, but we're trying to get them on to the school readiness, when they do enter the school, making sure that there is no developmental delays that, we could address to get referrals and all of that. So once we go into the home, we visit a mother. Once we enroll them, we go once a week for the first 4 weeks, and that's just to get to know them.
Right.
I will say that we meet the mother where she's at, whether it's in her home, whether it's in our grandmother's home or family member's home, whether she may not have her home. We've had some homeless clients, and whether we've met them at the location that they're staying temporarily, whether they're under an overpass, we meet them where they are. So it is a home visiting program, but we're, especially the vulnerable clients that are in this program, we meet them where they are.
And I could think that would be so important, because that really gives you the sense of any particular needs that this young mother may have as well.
That's correct. That's exactly right.
Yeah, this program was founded by Dr. Olds, who actually was a sociology individual, social work individual, and realized that there needed to be some help in the home. And he has done extensive national research, and she mentioned Fidelity because this is a national program, and that based on all the research he's done, that's where the stipulations come, because the development of the program, the requirements of the program, the nurses even have to go through intensive training to participate in the program. It's all founded on research, which shows that with this program, when you compare it with a matched control group of same kinds of considerations, age, et cetera, that through the Nurse Family Partnership, you have less prematurity, you have more normal birth weight. You also have the children better prepared for school because they help emphasize the things that can encourage reading, and that you have even long-term ability for these mothers who gain a lot more self-confidence and go to work and become more financially supportive of themselves. So this is based on a program that has years, literally over 20 years of research on it. And so it's a benefit not only to the individual, but to the community. And I was so glad that you mentioned relationship. That's the key.
Oh, I guess with no matter what it is that you're doing, if you don't have that trust factor, if you don't feel confident that, I can speak to her about this and either not be embarrassed or think that, well, gosh, I'm not going to ask this because it's a crazy question. As we all know, there are no crazy questions, especially when it comes to parenthood and dealing with children.
That's exactly right.
So I guess definitely the better pregnancy outcomes is, of course, the primary goal. But then we talk about as far as being part of that mother's life moving forward with that young child. Speak to us just a little bit about how the prevention of child abuse and neglect, how those inroads are made as well.
So because we are in the home and seeing the mother and the child interact, and family members if they are there, we can pick up signs that may need to be addressed as far as that. The other thing that we see, and Dr. Welch and I talked about this morning, we are seeing more and more mental health. Women that are in need of mental health services. So whether they're not being diagnosed, and of course if they're not diagnosed, they're not being treated. Mm-hmm. So we do extensive screenings at different time frames during her pregnancy and through the childhood, infancy and toddlerhood. And we can do it once we get to know we can usually pick up that something's not right, mm-hmm. Something's going on in her life. So that can facilitate some type of conversation. But we do screen for it routinely. And if it is positive, we do refer out to our local resources that we have in the area.
Well, again, we talk about the prevention of child abuse and neglect, and one of the other topics that you touched on, and it's interesting too when we think about it in terms of you're with these young mothers and children up until their second birthday, but that's certainly a time that when we talk about school readiness, you've got to kind of get that love of learning kind of instilled at an early age. And how do you all go about ensuring that?
Right. Well, actually, it even starts prenatally. We instill, just because the mother's pregnant does not mean that she cannot communicate with her child in utero. You talk to them, you sing to them, you read to them. After about 22 weeks, they can hear you. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't realize that you really, just because they're in utero, that you don't have a connection there. So we really stress for that. Reading to the baby, after the baby's here. There's some different trainings and programs that we can do with the mother just to show her, the first 2 years are the crucial years of that child's life, which is why we're in the home mm-hmm. for that length of time. So we're really trying to instill those values and goals to get them prepared for when they do go to school.
So with the improvement of school readiness, I guess you mentioned as far as reading to the child and singing and so forth, so those early language development
right.
skills
and
are just so
skills.
important. Social
right.
skills
social
as well.
Skills, the emotional skills, just play,
Yeah, you must have read my mind. I was a pediatrician in my former life, and the idea of play, it's amazing how many adults, but in this case parents, don't know how to play. And so often you can make a situation that could be a bad situation, you can make it better by play. Mm-hmm. You can communicate a lot of information by play, so the child doesn't know you're educating them, but you're playing and they think, oh, mama's great, they're playing, but you're communicating. And this is a lot too that's so important. Sometimes you have to teach mamas how to play.
Well, it's interesting that you say that, because I know, and play, again, is not defined as turning on a tablet or turning on the switch of a TV and going into another room.
It's getting on the floor and playing.
Getting on the floor and reading
down on their level.
Using imagination, and it's so lacking, I think, nowadays, unfortunately. You expect to be automatically entertained, but there's just so much more that can be gained and learned by, as you said, just kind of sitting down with a bucket of blocks or a couple of books or whatever.
They don't require a lot of fancy stuff. My kids still comment about how I use different voices when I read to them. I mean, it's just the things that make it more fun.
Well, that too, and it's always one of the things that always is so funny, especially like during the holidays. Children are more involved with the boxes
the
and the
boxes.
bags.
Right,
You know,
right,
as
right.
far as there's just so many different opportunities to really get there and make a difference, and you don't need a ton of money to do it.
No, you
There are
don't.
so many things that can be incorporated right within the home as
Right.
well. So.
It's again, they're developing relationships with their kids. Sometimes, I'm not saying we shouldn't take parenthood seriously. Obviously, I take it very seriously, but we need to realize we're parenting young children, and we have to, just like you meet the mothers where they are, you have to meet the children where they are. The same thing. You can't try to bring them into an adult world, and that's going to really help the child and the mother much, much more than just trying to adhere to a strict algorithm or something that you're supposed to do with the children. Because that's, again, a trusting, caring, loving relationship that you're establishing with the child.
And when we talk about establishing those relationships and so forth, I guess pretty much the overall goal is to self-sufficiency, of course, for the mother, and then, you know, raising healthy children. But when we talk about that, must be some tremendous changes in the life courses of these young mothers too. Tell us a little bit about that, and how that makes you feel, knowing that you're making that type of a difference, and you know, just how important that is, not just to our neighborhoods, but to our communities as a whole.
That's exactly right. We're finding more and more people just don't have the support, the family support that they've had. So whatever it may be, whatever their past history, a lot of the time in our relationship with the client, we learn that, you know, and we kind of adjust around that. So as far as the mother and her life course goals, is she still in high school and wanting to, you know, to quit just because she's pregnant? That's not a reason to quit school. We have had many clients in our program, and still have some currently, that are in high school. My nurses, we will meet them at school, you know, during a non-core class. So in one of their elective classes, if that's the best place for us to meet them, we meet them at school. The other life course, you know, if they don't have a job, let's look at job skills. You know, what do you want to do? What is your heart's desire? What do you want to do with your life? So you don't have to live off, you know, the system and stuff like that. Are you living somewhere where you're not really happy? Do you want better? Let's look at home place, you know, at different apartments where you can go. Just different stuff to make her to help her get more self-sufficient so she can support herself and that child.
Now, I guess one of the things that would be, I look at it from a standpoint of, as I said, these wonderful relationships that you must build. How is that when you get to that point, okay, it's close to that child's second birthday, you've been with these mothers through thick and thin, and you've seen their children grow, and it's got to be emotional, but then yet so fulfilling at the same time.
It is. As we get closer to the 2-year mark, we do hold graduations for our clients. After they complete the program, we'll do 2 or 3 a year, depending on when the child's birthday falls. But it is a huge celebration for us to honor these mothers on the commitment that they have instilled to complete this program, because it's a lot, especially if they are working or going to school. That's one more thing that they have to make time for, to meet with us. But once they realize what we're there for and see changes in their life, the relationship gets very strong, you know, but we don't, that's the best part of this program, is because if I can make a difference in just one person's life, you know, they could change, that one person could help change the world.
That ripple effect is something
Sure
that
is.
none of us will ever really truly know.
Right.
And you see that, having attended several of the graduations. It really is a celebration. And what's wonderful to see are these young mothers who probably had very little self-confidence initially, who have blossomed, and they're communicating with each other and supportive of each other, and they are just as confident a mom as anyone out there.
And that relationship doesn't stop, you know, after that, especially if you've really touched a mother's life. They've also touched yours as a healthcare professional, you know, just a nurse, just to be able to help those people. So we still do keep in contact with. You really build a lifetime friendship to see them continue to change.
Well, it's interesting. We talk about, of course, the mission of the nurse-family partnership, and just kind of in a nutshell, if we can kind of just backtrack a little bit, what does the partnership itself mean to you and the services that you bring to these young mothers?
It is taking a mother under your wing and helping her be the best mom she can be. Our new motto is great moms start, or better worlds start with great families, and great families start with us. So if we can just, give us that chance. One thing that we didn't even mention, this program is completely free. So there is no cost to these mothers and families to have us in their home for these 2.5 years. A lot of people, the information and wealth of knowledge that these women and families are getting, it's unmeasurable. It's just so valuable for them to continue on with the rest of their life, and it's free.
Now, we talk about free, but I'm sure there are certain requirements in place and so forth. Dr. Welch, and can you talk us just to a little bit about what those requirements are in order to go ahead and get started within this program?
In order to qualify for this program, the mother has to be pregnant with her first child. If she has had the unfortunate of having miscarriages or abortions or anything like that previously, she still qualifies as long as this is her first living child. Again, like I mentioned earlier, we do have to enroll before the end of her 28th week of gestation. So as early as she finds out that she's pregnant, the sooner the better. And then they have to qualify for Medicaid and or WIC. Be more at the vulnerable, the people that really need that. And then live in Western Tidewater, live in our service district. So it's Suffolk, Isle of Wight, Franklin, and Southampton County. That's all it is, and we'll take it from there.
So if someone has additional questions and so forth, who is the best person to reach out to for further information?
They can call me directly. The office phone number is 757-514-4727. They can also reach out on my cell phone. So if they want to either call or text, and that's 757-650-5498.
Now, thank you for sharing those numbers, and that kind of leads me to the next question. we know as first-time parents and young parents and so forth, there's always that 2 o'clock in the morning, that crazy, like, oh my gosh, what do I do now? Or, the baby's never made that noise before. Ooh, I've never seen that type of a rash before.
That's a mother talking, right?
For certain. So what type of support system, I guess, do you have in those instances? Is it something that there is maybe an on-call type service that they can reach out to?
Right.
Or,
there's not
because we know that you all can't be on call 24/7 yourself.
That's correct. Our normal working hours are from 8 to 4:30, Monday through Friday. Each of my nurses, we do carry cell phones, as the number was just given. And the clients know that they can reach out to us. I do let them know if it is 2 o'clock in the morning, I may not get that phone call or that text right away, but once I'm up at 7 a.m., it happens all the time. I'll see something and they can, call. And of course, if it's a medical emergency, we try to educate those ahead of time, and if they really need medical services, to go ahead and do that, and we'll catch up after the fact.
Yeah, right.
I can relate to being on call at 2 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
But again, in all seriousness, this is just such a phenomenal program, and I mean, I've lived in Suffolk for 30 years. To be honest, I've never heard of this program. Right. So I can certainly understand that, there's so many within our community that would benefit tremendously from this, either knowing from somebody, a family or a person within the community, or a friend of the family who certainly might benefit from the services.
And when you have healthy families, you have a healthier community. They go hand in hand. So it benefits everyone.
Well, in fact, it leads me, there was a saying I had read about when a mother leaves poverty, she takes her children with her.
That's correct.
And how true that is when you think about this program and the benefits and instilling in that in these young women that I can do this, I've got this support system, and there's nothing I can't handle without that.
And many of them have not heard that in their lifetime, that they can do it. They feel that they're destined to not succeed, but they can succeed just like anyone else.
Well, ladies, thank you so much again. As I said, we certainly could have probably made this a 2 or 3 hour program, just this one topic alone.
Right.
But there's so much more that we'd like to have you come back and join us with later.
Absolutely.
And again, just wanted to thank you all so much for the difference that you're making within our communities, and especially for our youngest, most vulnerable citizens as well.
We'll invite you to a graduation.
Yes, we will.
That we might need to cover for
That's
certain.
fun.
Yes, definitely. We'll definitely get that in the works.
Thank you again for joining us for today's segment of Healthy Living.